Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. So let's continue our study of Vivekachudamani. The last sloka we saw, Koshihi Annamayadyehi Panchavihi Atmana Sambrito Bhati Nijashakti Samutpannehi Shaivala Patalehi Ivambu Vapistam. Just as the weeds or moss, etc., which grow out of water, they cover the water itself. Their origin, their birth is due to water. Without that, there cannot be weeds. But the very same weeds cover the water and not allow us to see it. Similarly, this koshas, Annamayadi, these five koshas, they cover the body and they do not allow it to shine. Na bhati. It's not allowing it to shine clearly. So how do you say they're all uh, products of this Atman only? Because there's nothing else. The basic drift, the basic argument of the scripture is that there is only that one Atman, one Brahman, there's nothing else. If that be so, whatever has come out of that only. Obviously, there cannot be anything else other than that. So that proves that this Atman is responsible for everything. Of course, ultimately we wrongly think the whatever has come out to be the original. Just as if you think the mass to be the real thing, you completely fail to recognize there is a water beneath that. In the same way, all of us we consider this an Atman, this body to be the Atman. That is where our suffering lies. But all that we see, whatever you see in the manifested world, they all owe their origin to this Atman or Brahman because there is nothing else other than that. It may be a distorted form of Brahman, distorted form of Atman, or whatever it is, but ultimately, according to the scripture, there's nothing other than that. So that is why we have to understand that all these owe their origin to the Atman or Brahman only. But no, there is no real transformation, there is no real change, etc. Atman because it is Satchitananda Swarup, Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. It is there is no Vikara, there is no Parinama. All these things are definitely not there are Atman. But due to some wrong understanding, which we call as Maya, or ignorance, or whatever it is, we think that all these have come and they are real, they are permanent, they are eternal. And in fact, we think these three to be the Atman, forgetting the real Atman. So just as the mass which is created or produced by water covers water and allows us, doesn't permit us to see the water itself. The same way, this pancha koshas, etc., they cover the Atman completely and don't allow it to shine its own original pristine glory, which is the nature of Atman. Then, how does the clear water is seen or what is its benefit? That Shailapane Samyak Shrilam Pratiyate Shuddham Trishna Santapaharam Sadhya Saukyapradam Param Pusam Param Pumsam. So when the mass is removed, the Shaivala Apane, when it is removed, that Shaivala Apane, when it is removed, when this mass is removed, Samyak Shalilam Pratiyate Shuddham. The water becomes visible in all its purity, in all its clarity, in all its clearness. When the Shaivala is removed, then there is a clear sight of the water which is beneath. Not only that, Trishna Santapaharam, it removes the pain of this thirst, and immediately Sadhya Saukya Pradam Param Pumsam. Param Saukya Pradam. It gives supreme happiness to men, Pumsam, immediately, then and there. The moment the water is, it becomes clear, then you drink that water and you are completely quenched of the thirst, etc. It immediately gives relief to the person. So, in the same way, Panchanamapi Koshanam Apavade Vibhateyam Shuddhaha Nityanandaikarasah Pratyegrupaha Paraha Swayam Jyotihi. So, in the same way, when the five sheets, Panchanamapi Koshanam Apavade, when they are set aside, the Atman, which is pure, ever blissful, I am Shuddhaha Nitya Anand Ekarasaha Pratyagrupaha Swayam Jyotihi. This Vibhati, this shines beautifully. This ever blissful, indwelling, supreme, self-effulgent, it appears clear and it is absolutely untouched by what is called this Anatman or the Kosha Samuha. This is not completely uh, is free from all that. So this Atman, which is the ultimate truth, is of the nature of eternal bliss. It is devoid of origination and destruction. It is untouched by sorrow. It is the whole and entirety of bliss only. It is the innermost of one's self, one's being. It is self-effulgent. It cannot be illumined by anything outside. It is of the nature of pure intelligence, Shuddha Buddha Mukta Subhava, ever pure, without any inherent or external impurities. It shines with great splendor, Vibhati. So it is Pratyek Rupa, means it's inside everything, Arki, and it is Swayam Jyoti. It is not illumined by anything outside. It is by nature itself, it is of the nature of shining. But then you might ask how that can be covered by these sheets, etc. Another classical example they give is these clouds. Clouds completely cover the sun. The sun is so powerful, it illumines the entire world. But a small patch of clouds can cover it and make it appear as not shining. They can introduce complete darkness. So in the same way, although the sheets are all they are very limited and this and that, yet it's possible that they can cover the Atman and for the time being prevent it from shining its own beautiful glory, Swayam Jyoti. So So it is here they have used the vibhati, means viseshena bhati, they shine excellently, untouched by anything, which is the nature of anatman. Then atma anatma vivekaha kartavyo bandha muktiye vidusha tenaivanandi bhavati swam vijnaya satchidanandam. So the person vidusha, a person, a wise person, a man of wisdom who has knowledge of the scriptures. I mean, he's not a realized soul, or he has not completely realized what is Atman and what is an Atman completely. But yet, a person of wisdom means he has studied the scriptures, has understood the meaning of scriptures. What should such a person should do? Kartavya, what is his kartavya, or what is his duty, or what he is compelled to do, is Atma Anatma Viveka. The discrimination between Atman and Anatman. Why? Bandha muktaye. If you want to release from the bondage, you must ask, why should I discriminate? I'm happy with all my problems, difficulties, every day I'm facing. I'm suffering again and again. But if you feel that you are happy, you don't have to do anything, then you don't do. But if you feel that you are in bondage, you are in a terrible hurry, you are in great pain and sorrow, because again and again you have to go through. Again, sometimes people ask this question, why at all we should be spiritual? Why not be unspiritual? Why not be materialist? Yes, be. That's what most of the world is. But that is not getting them anywhere. Because again and again, you may have any amount of wealth, any amount of comforts, any amount of that. In a trice, all that can go. Oh, just he was talking to me. Just 2 minutes ago, he was talking to me. How many such instances we hear? Everything is okay. Suddenly a small this thing, permanent disagreement, split, fight, court case, anything, our money, our possessions, our relationships, our health, all that can go for a toss just in a matter of seconds. So that being so, should we really wait for something drastic or something so drastic to happen in our life? Should we not learn? You see, that's what Gita says, no? Yadyat acharati shasyaha tatti eva itaro janaha sayat pramanam kurte lokasarna vartate. Whatever the great people have done, we follow them. We try to learn from them. Why? Because why should I again go through all that? Let me be an intelligent person. I've seen, I've learned from the life's experience of others. This is how it is happening. Why should we wait for that to happen right in our own family or in our surroundings? And then only we'll start? No. Right now I'll start. We have understood through intellect, through understanding from the lives of others, through the practices, through what has been happening for ages, for thousands of years. This is the nature of samsara. So I should do everything to get over it. Then you are a vidusha, you are a person of that kind of a wisdom, and you are ready to do this atma and atma viveka. If you want to be free from bandhana, bandha mukte, you have to do. Then what happens to such a person? Having vijnaya, having know that, so he becomes swam vijnaya sachidanandam, having understood that to be of the nature of existence, knowledge, bliss, tenaiva anandi bhavati. He enjoys the bliss of Atman only because of that, only because of this great discrimination. Tenaiva, only that, only the discrimination Atman and Atman, that alone can give you that Anandi Bhavati. Only that can make you a person full of Ananda or bliss. Nothing else can. Because ultimately, that's why in the school of Advaita, they don't advocate any other sadhana. Discriminate constantly. Discriminate the distinction between Atman and Anatman. Try to understand again, why are we caught in this? What is really binding us down to this earth? What's really troubling us? What should we do to get rid of all that? Once we understand that, then such a person cannot but discriminate. And then he becomes, you know, free, muktaye, bandha muktaye, for the removal of this adhyasa or superimposition. Because here there is a superimposition. The sheets, panchakoshas, they have been superimposed on the Atman. They are hiding it, preventing it from shining. Remove that superimposition. To do that, we need to this Viveka and Atma and Atma Viveka, distinct knowledge between Atman and Atman without mixing them up. This is our kartavya. This should be done. There is no other go. Tenaiva, only by that. So, by then only one's Swarupa, real nature, Satchit Ananda, that will be known. And once you know that, you become Anandi Bhavati. You enjoy incomparable bliss always. Then, having thus by illustration, we have conveyed, the Guru has conveyed to the Shishya the method of discrimination. The Guru teaches him what should be done for being established in Brahman, which is the meaning of mukti or liberation. Here, what does he mean? Bandha mukti. What is that mukti that is talked about? That is being completely established in the idea that one is the Atman, not allowing anything else to come in between, and being always in that state of awareness. So, how that is done is a very beautiful example. Again, he says, Munjat ishikamiva drishyavargat pratyancham atmanam asangam vivichya tatra pravilapya sarvam sadatmana tishtati yasya muktaha. Yasya muktaha, the person who is liberated, what does he do? He separates the Atman. He separates the Atman, which is of the nature, which is asanga, which is anatas, akriya, which is of the nature of, being inactive. That means does not participate, is not involved in any activity, because any activity means dvaita comes, duality comes. So it is free from activity, is free from any attachment. How does he separate it? Drishya vargat, from every object of sense perception. Drishya vargat. Drishya, whatever is seen. Vargat, the samuha. From every object of sense perception, he separates pratyancham Atmanam Asangamakriyam, uh, which he separates. How does he do? Munjat Ishikamiva. And I think perhaps in the olden days this was there from the muncha grass. They used to take out this ishika, the inner stem. The ishika is carefully separated from the coverings in the munja grass. In the same way, a person, if he does it, pravilapya sarvam tadatmana tishtati asya muktaha, he remains forever firmly established in the Atman. So this Atman Viveka in the previous sloka, he said, how that is to be done? So it requires extreme care, extreme alertness. Suppose you want to take out that beautiful subtle stem from the munja grass. Probably perhaps it was used for any purpose, whatever purpose it was. So one has to be extremely careful when you remove a stem from any plant, anything which is surrounding it. How much care it takes? Otherwise, you may break the very thing itself. So just as you do with so much of attention, so much of care, and so much of concentration, in the same way, what is the problem? What is the Atman Anatman mix up? What it has happened? That's because of the sense objects, Drishya Vargat, including this body. The body is seen also by the senses only. Body is felt by the senses. So, whatever experiences the senses bring, from that, the Atman, which is of the nature of Akriya, Asanga, it has no attachment, it has no Kriya, that has to be very delicately separated. Constantly one has to discriminate and understand that whatever we see, this is an Atman, this is an Atman. Just why? Because know from the characteristics of whatever is a drishya, whatever you see from those objects, moment you find out, put them to the test, whether they are eternal, whether they are changeless, whether they are of the nature of Satchitananda Swarupa, whether they are permanent. No, you get to know in every such case, oh, then this is not Atman. We should not confuse. We should not get involved. Should be away from that. Shouldn't allow that to dominate me, dominate my mind. I should not get attached to it. Constantly, if you are very careful and if you do it in a very subtle way, then only you will be able to understand, and then only just mukti extra is possible. In the Shruti also, there is in the Kathoparishad, Yesha Sarveshu Bhuteshu Gudhatma Na Prakashate Drishyate tu Agreya Buddhya Sukshmaya Sukshmadarshibhihi. Atman is concealed in all Sarveshu Bhuteshu Gudhatma. Na prakashate, it is concealed, it does not shine out. Why? Because of the panchakoshas, the sheets, anamaya, pranamaya, etc. They completely cover that Atman. So it is not apparently visible, it's not seen. So even in the Ishika, the fine stem within the munja grass, that's also not visible externally. But you have heard about it, you have known, others have done it, others have separated it and got the benefit of it. So, in the same way, you also know that although I am not able to see Atman, not able to experience it, although it is not visible, it is not being allowed to shine by this covering, etc. Because you have heard, because you have studied the scriptures, you have heard from the Guru, then you take it up. I have to do it. I have to separate it. I have to do it very carefully. I have to be extremely attentive. That's why in this like, who does it? Who says it? Drishyate tu agraya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibhihi. However, seen by the sharp intellect of those who can see what is subtle. You see, if a normal person say, what is there in this munja? Nothing is there. Throw it. In a plantain tree, you cut it and you can just throw it. After taking the plantain fruits, the normal person, if he doesn't know, he will throw it. But the person who has a subtle idea or seen, he knows there's a beautiful stem inside that can also be taken out, and you can prepare dishes with that. And then you carefully remove all the outer sheets, and then the innermost that stem within that comes out. In the same way, the Atman apparently is not visible, it is covered, but it is revealed to those, the intellect, sharp intellect, agraya buddhya, Sukshmaya Sukshma Dashvi. Those who are able to see what is subtle, unless you have that subtlety, if you're gross, can't understand, nothing will happen. So many people here, everyone knows that these are all impermanent, temporary, and all that. But how many have that subtle mind to go deeper and find out and experience that which is really, that's capable of giving you that the final mukti? So you need that. By the mind, one has to do the prescribed karmas, etc., and by upasana and dhyana, etc. The Atman has to be separated totally from the seen objects which are of the nature of anatman. Whatever is seen, drishya vargat, whatever is seen and experienced. Here, it's seen not only just by eyes, the experience through the ears, nose, mouth, then the skin, all come under the whatever the indriyas bring, the sense objects experienced in the indriyas, all come under this category called drishya varga. It has to be removed from that. It's an assemblage of whatever is anatman that belongs to the category of what is seen. Then, then he says, Pratyancham Atman. Pratyancha, there is no seeing in the reverse way, not in the original way where the outgoing of the senses they go. So they say, Pratyagatmanam Akshat. They say, Avrita Chakshuhu, Amritatvam Ichana. Avrita, inward gaze. Normally the eyes go constantly outward, outward, outward. Pratyancham means turning the gaze inward, seeing in the reverse way. What that is shining intelligence, bliss, etc., from what is unreal, material. This is free from grief and ahankar and all that. But all that is possible only if you reverse the gaze and see inside. Otherwise, normally the senses keep on going outwardly, outwardly, seeing only what is visible. Then it is asanga, free from attachment, because why it is free from attachment? Anything, when you see attachment, there should be anything that is second, dual. But Atman is one without a second. Ekameva dvitiya. So it's only one. So no question of any attachment. Similarly, why is Akriya? It is whole. It's totally one. It's undivided, unlimited. It's infinite. It's all pervading. There's no second entity. Where is the question of any Kriya or action? So these are its nature. Atmanam vivichya, separating the Atman completely, eliminating anything from it to the extent of not even thinking of any perceivable object with a firm conviction. There's nothing that is real apart from the Atman. See, it's not only whatever we have experienced, whatever we have stored in the mind, whenever there's imagination, all put together, constantly being alert, not vacillating, not wavering, not digressing even for a second. Constantly, if that kind of effort is made, it's possible with a deep conviction. Yes, there is nothing apart from the Atman. Then what is it? Pravilapya. Pravilapya is that determining that there is nothing other than the Pratyagatman. Pravilapya. So he is established forever in the contemplative realization of the inner Atman. He is said to be liberated from every kind of bondage. Because once you are settled there, once you are deeply established there, you know that there is nothing beyond this. So there is no question of you are getting attached to anything and so on and so forth. So the state of remaining forever established in Brahman, Atman, is to be attained by discriminating between Atman and Anatman. Thus, the person of discrimination would clear from the mind or expunge from the mind every trace of contamination by the material world, and that is how he gets firmly established. Because there are so much impressions we have gathered, so much of due to sanskaras, due to our actions, then that leads to vasanas, then more samskaras, more. So unless the mind is completely detached and made free, it's not possible to be established. Then the Shruti said, Asman lokat pretya etam uh, etam annamayam atmanam upasankramati. Going away from the body. Asmat lokat pretya etam annamayam atmanam upasankramati. transcends the material body. Going away from this body, going away from this pursuit, the first thing that is given up is Annamaya body. The Atman is because that's beyond all the koshas starting from the Annamaya. But Annamaya kosha is, Annamaya, Manomaya, Vigyan, Annamaya, Manom, then Manomaya, Pranamaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, all those things are there. So, the being the gross sheet, the Annamaya kosha has to be eliminated first. So then in the next 10 slokas, the Guru tries to analyze the nature of the Annamaya kosha. How does it create problems? What is its nature? Why it is a problem? What is its origin? What is the real nature of this Annamaya kosha? How it is created? All that is trying to explain. Deho, dehoyam, deho, ayam annabhavano, annamayastu kosho, hi anneva jivati, vinashati tadvihinaha. त्वक् चर्म मांस हृदय अस्ति पुरीश राशि नायम स्वयं भवितुमर्हति नित्य शुद्धः. This deha, this gross body, this I am anna bhavano. This is anna, born of anna. This annamaya kosha is born of anna. I am astu kosha, annamaya astu kosha. Deha, it is annamayam, annamaya Anno, Annamaya, Anna Bhavano, Annamayastu Kosha. The sheath of the gross body of this Deha is Anna, born of Anna. Is Annamaya Kosha is born of Anna only. He Annena Jivati Vinashiti Tadvihina. It lives by Anna, matter. And Vinashiti Tadvihina, without that it dies. So it's born out of Anna, it's sustained by Anna, it dies if there is no Anna. Then what else? What is there? What is its composition? The charma mangsha rudirha asti purisha rashihi. It's composed of skin, flesh, blood, and then the bones, and also the very despicable things like excreta, etc. Purisha rashihi. Nayam swayam bhavitu marhati nitya shuddhaha. It does not. No, I am Swayam Bhavitum Arhati Nitya. It cannot, it doesn't ever deserve to be the ever pure Atman. Atman, we all say, is of the nature of Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava. It's ever pure, ever Shuddha, ever Mukta, ever free, ever Ananda. But this, that which is born out of Anna, stays in Anna, and is destroyed if Anna is not there. How can you, and it's full of the blood and then flesh, blood, skin, and also the items like excreta, etc. How can that be ever thought of as the ever pure Atman? Can you ever think of it? So it is actually, it can never be. What is Anna Bhavana means? Originated from Anna. The origin is from the actually everyone, the father and mother, the husband and wife, they consume kanna. From this their body grows, from this all the other elements are produced, and then only then the childbirth, etc. takes place. So for everything, the origin is anna bhavana. So the body is a visible object, is gross material sheath. So among the five sheaths, this gross body alone is annamaya, not anything else. Annat vai prajayante ato annenaiva jivanti. It comes in the Taittiriya Upanishad. Annat vai prajayante. People are born out of Anna. Atho annenaiva jivanti, and they live only by Anna. So in this Vivekachudamani sloka also, Shankara says they are born, they are sustained, and they die if there is no. Being Anna is not merely by origin. Even after origination, they live by that. And if they are not sustained like that, if it is not exposed, if it is not given Anna, it dies vinashati. So it is also declared by the word that Tvak, etc., as impure, not only by Anna, not only because Anna is perishable, that which is sustained by a perishable thing is in turn perishable. Because your origin itself is by something which is purely perishable. Anna you can't keep more than for a few hours, then it becomes totally spoiled. You can't even go anywhere near it. If it is so perishable, That which is created out of Anna is again perishable, that cannot be imperishable. And also to further strengthen the idea, he brings the idea of this Rakta, Mangsha, Rudhira, etc. And because of all that, it is such an impure thing, it does not deserve to be even thought of as Atman, which is eternally pure. Because it is said, in the Kathopanishad also, Ajo Nitya Shuddham, Apapaviddham, etc. It is Atman is unborn, eternal, pure, and sinless. And again, the Guru explains the transitory nature of this Annamaya Kosha, or this body, which perishes very quickly when it is not sustained properly. Then how it is, what is the, how it is sustained is explained. So he says, Purvam Janehe api mrityuhu atanayam asti jata lakshana guna aniyata swabhavah neko jadascha ghatavat paridrishyamanaha swatma katam bhavati bhava vikara veta. So, Purvam Janehe api mritehe atanayam asti. See, it does not exist before its origination or after its destruction or after it's completely finished, after it's completely destroyed. So what does it mean? It's not exist before origination. There's a limited span for this body. No, it starts only from the birth. Before that, it was not there. Only from birth, its existence starts, and it is completely finished with death. Mitoho mritehe ata nayamasti. Jata lakshana Ksanaguno Aniyata Swabhavaha. Every moment it is subject to birth and death, and it is so impermanent. Aniyata Swabhava, it is after nature impermanent. Jata Lakshana Kshanaguna, it is such a transitory. Every moment it is subject to this Jata Lakshana. Jata also means automatically the Mrita Lakshana also comes. Every moment is subject to birth and death, etc. And is Anita Swabhava, completely impermanent. Naiko Jadascha Gatavat Paridishyamanaha. It is not the same nature always. It's material and visible like a pot. Why it is not of the same nature always? It's constantly saying, now I feel hot, now I feel cold, now I feel this disease, that disease. And from if you look back, you cannot look at your own image. How I used to look like so many years. What has happened to me? I've become so old, decrepit. My skin has become shrunk and this and that. However much we apply cosmetics, but one cannot deny the complete changing nature of this body. So it is not the same nature always. It's constantly changing, and it is gatavat, like gata, like an object. Paridrishyamanaha. It's always visible. Then Swatma katam bhavati bhava vikara chetta bhava vikara vetta. How can it be the Atman which knows the changes vikara vetta, who knows the katam bhavati? How can it be imagined to be the Atman, but which itself does not know any change, but same time it is aware of every change? This would require a little more elaborate consideration. It is a Purvam Denehe means before origination. Mritareta means Mritehe Ata means after death, after destruction. So, Drishta Swabhava, it's the uh, uh, so Drishta Nashta Swabhava means destroyed, positive, even while one is seeing it. Drishta Nashta Swabhava means you look at the body, somebody is there right before you, is hale and hearty. Suddenly, in a moment, he goes away. Or after death, when it is put to fire, in no time, the whole body goes. Drishta Nashta Swabhava. Even while you are seeing it constantly, you are looking at it, then also it is completely destroyed. That's why in the Mandikurka it says, Adhavante cha ennasti vartamanepi tattata. That which is not in the beginning and at the end is non-existence also in the present. So there's a logic. You know, Adhavante cha ennasti vartamanepi tattata. So something which is not there in the beginning, that which is not there at the end. So in the middle also you can very well consider it as something non-existence. So because it's such a temporary nature, so transitory, can vanish anytime. So absolutely, it's non-existent in the sense that it has no permanent existence. So temporary is as good as not worth considering. So bad, so temporary. So that's how it says, and then that is why it is indescribable, because its nature cannot be described, because it's constantly changing. And then further it is explained by uh, so it is jatascha gatavat jata lakshana, it is jata lakshana kshana guna anita swabhavaha. So it is that is subject to origination and destruction every moment. By contact with the wind and movement of the breath in the body, it lives. But the process of drying up due to consumption of this vayu, it begins to decline. Hence, the frequent intake of food and water. Says, why do you need food and water? Otherwise, the very birth, very breath which you take, vayu, that itself can completely dry you up if you don't take enough food and water, etc. So, it is jata lakshana kshana guna. So temporary. Every moment it keeps changing. Every moment is subject to birth, death, etc. There is aniyata svabhava, it's impermanent. It is so because it disappears ultimately. So it is, but it's also seen. It disappears ultimately. So there is a tremendous amount of confusion about its very existence. That's why it is called as something which cannot be described. So it is in this Naika Jatascha. Naika means in the very same birth, the Janma, it is known to have so many different aspects. One in when you are young, when you are very in the childhood, and then when it's youth, then when it's a fully grown personality, and then in old age, such a constant change even in this very birth. So that's why it is called Naika. And then Gatavat Paridishyamana, it's visible like a pot. So, because it is dependent on elimination by an object outside, it is dependent on for its visibility. Whereas the Atmanism, as we have seen previously, it is Swayam Jyoti, is self-illumined. But just as a gata, the object needs some outside illumination to be seen. If you keep a pot in total darkness, you won't even know there is a pot. Similarly, the body, because it's also seen drishyamana like a gata, it also needs something outside illumination to be revealed. Then, katam bhavati bhava vikara vetta. How can it be considered to be the itself to be the knower of the changes that is? Then it is once it is lean, then it is stout. No object, no object in the world can know its own changes. Is it not? The body is known it changes because something external to it, there's an illumination. Because of that, it is. But it is not Swayam Jyoti, it is not self illumined. Because the because of the eye sense, because of the Sakshi, because of the awareness, there is an idea that see that is external to this body, is it not? The awareness or the idea of witness, or this all coming from the originating from that Atman. Because of that, we know that this body is aging, this is now stout, this is lean, etc. The body itself does not know. You need an external agency, namely the knower, the Sakshi, the Veta, the Atman. That only knows. The Atman is constantly aware of everything, whatever is happening to the body outside in this world, Trishyamana, constant, the entire the knowledge, the world, everything that is outside is known only to the Veta, he is the Atman. But the same status cannot be given to the body. For example, a pot does not see itself. Similarly, the body by itself, does the hand see it by itself? No. There is a knower, this Sakshi, that Chaitanya, that consciousness, this witness, this awareness that is behind this body, that is able to see the body. That is able to recognize its changes, etc. But not the body itself. So, because of that, Katham Bhavati, how can this body be assumed to be the Atman or that which is knowing all the changes? But we have already said that Atman is that which is constantly aware, which knows everything, which is ever aware of everything. There is it is Satchit Ananda Swarup. All these qualities, more importantly, being aware of everything. That is this Atman or the witness or the Chaitanya. So that quality is totally absent in this body. So obviously, you have to discriminate between this body and the Atman, between Anatman and Atman, and that is how you will get the mukti or the ultimate release or liberation. So all these slokas, through all these, Shankaracharya is trying to emphasize, make us understand the absolutely transitory and impermanent nature of the Anatman. So only in the process he is bringing so many examples, so many ideas, how this Atman, which is bereft of all these kinds of qualities, it is of the same nature always, it's not subject to any change, and it is also always the ever-present seer, how the Anatman, the body, can never assume that position, that is being clearly explained in this sloka. It will continue, yes, many more, few more slokas. So he wants to, see, as I said, the idea is by again and again, by listening to all these arguments, they're all not very difficult to understand, quite simple is the logic, but the constant listening, Sravana, and then thinking about it, ruminating, and then ultimately Nididhyasana. That would only slowly establish one in that idea of Atman, and that's how one can get rid of this bondage of Anatman. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.